if they have a clinic, it's running really good, and they're like, maybe I could have another location. And then they go, maybe I could franchise. What questions should they ask themselves before they even embark on thinking of something like that?
Are you ready to be a business coach?
That's
if you were to leave your business right now for a week, your current business, does it keep running seamlessly without you? That's one of the very first questions that somebody needs to ask themselves before they start franchising, because franchising is a great way to build your brand using other people's money while waiving so much liability when you do it the right way. But you have to be that person's business coach, and you have to be willing, those first few people, of course, hopefully you set up a system to where you can handle a lot of people, but those first 1, 2, 3 franchises, those need to be your main world, because if it doesn't work out for them, then any other validation from any future franchisees, it won't go your way.
Welcome to the Super Clinic Project Podcast, where we take regular clinic owners and turn them into cash-based multimillionaire entrepreneurs. Warning, if you're a doctor who listens to this podcast regularly, you will make millions of dollars. Do not listen to this podcast unless you want to be a successful clinic owner who helps thousands of patients achieve their health goals and adds more money than you can imagine to your bank account. You've been warned.
Welcome to the Super Clinic Project Podcast, where we take regular clinic owners and turn them into super clinic owners. I'm one of your hosts, Jennifer Gligoric, and today you'll be here with me with someone who is a founder, a chartered financial consultant, and certified IUL master. He is the partner of the Franchise Consulting Company, and he's also the host of the Entrepreneurist podcast. So let us give a big super clinic welcome to Randolph Love to the show today. Welcome, Randolph.
Thank you so much for having me. And you got that name right on the first try. People typically don't. So congratulations to you.
Well, that's because I can be a little spicy. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I know how to do this one. But no, but I practice. I practice too. But anyway, so Randolph's expertise is everything from, of course, franchises, but also finance. And, you know, with our clinic owners who are all doctors and healthcare professionals, sometimes that's not the big thing. It's getting people well, right? So it's great to have you to the show. And so I want to start off right off the bat. We have a lot of doctors who are in clinic. Well, not a lot, but we have, you know, some that are really starting to approach 60, but they just want to keep on working, right? But at the same time, they're like, you know, it's changing a lot. Healthcare is really getting different, but maybe I'll just have to work for forever. So would you say, because you're in this space too, is it too late to plan for retirement for the docs that are getting really close to 60 already?
Nah, actually, the best time to plan this type of comprehensive planning that's necessary for a doctor would actually be 5 to 10 years when you're thinking about retiring. So if somebody could be 60 years old, but if they love what they do and they're still, you know, they still have that young person's energy, right? They might not have no vision of retiring, but this is the time to say, all right, if I want the option, not the requirement, but the option of stopping what I'm doing, because I don't really like to use the word retirement because that came from the industrial age, meaning to be put out of use. A lot of the people that I work with are high performing entrepreneurs, business owners. They never want to be put out of use. But if we want you to have the option of being able to do something different, I think 5 to 10 years out is very good.
Really? I've always heard, you know, you go as early, whatever. That gives me a lot of hope, because there are a lot of people who don't really want to retire per se. They just might want to like lessen their hours, get someone in to help them. But they want to have the option in case something happens. Like, what happens if I get sick, or my partner, or, you know, I need to because the kids or the grandkids or something like that. So what do you think? I know that you talk a lot about IRAs and 401ks. So, but you also say that's not always the best option for your money. So right now, when you're looking at things, what do you think would be a good retirement option? If let's say you're a clinic owner, you may or may not own the land of the clinic. Maybe you're renting or whatever, but you know, you did have options. You have a thriving business.
Mm-hmm. So it's all about what you consider important. And a lot of people one of the first things that they pay attention to is what the return might be. Like the first thing that you talk to somebody when they talk about, all right, what do I need to do, whether it's an IRA, 401k, whatever, what's my return, right? When really and truly, of a list of 4 very important things that I'm about to name, return is the third on the list. Oh. The most important thing is liquidity, because yes, all right, IRAs, 401ks are great, right? And other qualified retirement plans. But if you're under the age of 59 and a half, can you get to it without penalty? And if you have a traditional as opposed to a Roth, did you defer taxes thinking that you would be deferring it to a better tax treatment, only to realize that now that you deferred it, that you're paying as much, if not more, in taxes than you would have? A lot of the stuff that I advise people to do has to do with simple universal truths. If you are a farmer, would you rather pay taxes on what it costs you to buy a handful of seeds? Or would you rather pay the taxes of what you get from selling a field for the crops?
Well,
you want to have it, the handful of seeds.
Yeah.
You want to have it to where the seeds are taken care of. So the reason why I don't necessarily like the qualified retirement accounts like 401ks, IRAs, 403bs, those sort of things, is because you can't get to it. We want it to be liquid, but we also want it to be safe. A lot of those qualified retirement accounts have the majority of the serious money put into volatile positions. What that means is you can go to sleep one night and then wake up the next morning and you've just lost 30% of your capital, 40% of your capital overnight, right? So before you even...
Well, that's all we heard through Biden and now Trump. Oh, what about the 401ks? What about 401ks? And then you have young people who can't even afford a 401k going, who cares? Right?
Exactly.
They don't care. Yeah.
And they should care, because to your point, like the best time, is 5 to 10 years so that you can do it. But when did they say the best time is to plant a tree? 20 years ago.
20 years ago, yeah.
The second best time is today. So to your point, what we do is, all right, so we want to avoid the not being able to get to it. We want it to be liquid, right? Mm-hmm. We also want to make sure that it's safe, because this is the way a traditional financial advisor would tell you. Let's say you have $100,000 in a qualified account and it drops 50%. 50% of $100,000 is $50,000. So you just lost $50,000. And let's say the next year it comes back 50%. A traditional financial advisor where you have your money in those type of accounts would tell you, hey, you just broke even. Now it's time to start making profit again. When really and truly that's not true, because when you lose 50%, that's 50,000 of 100,000, but 50% of 50,000 is only 25,000. So it dropped 50, but it only went up 25. So you're losing money. So not only do you want it to be liquid, you want it to be safe. Then that's when we get to the good rates of returns. A lot of people in these volatile accounts and in the 401ks, if you actually look at it, you're only getting a return of maybe 3 to 5%. And that's not even the true internal rate of return. You got 3 to 5% before you even consider taxes. So now you put your money into this thing, and what happens is compound interest is definitely one of the great wonders of the world. But if every 3 to 4 years your principal is dropping 30 to 40%, you're losing that benefit, because whatever you drop, you have to do double to break even. And a lot of these years, you're never able to do double. So the way that we advise people and like to educate them on is how to use life insurance to do that.
Okay. And so what was number 4, or what? Because
I like that. I just wanted to see if you were paying attention.
No, I'm literally taking my notes.
Number 4, that's when you get to tax treatment.
Oh, okay.
So you want it to be liquid. You need money that you're able to get to within 1 to 3 days. A lot of times in a 401k IRA, you can't get to it within 1 to 3 days. And then if you try to get to it before you're 59 and a half, they charge you a penalty. You need it to be safe.
I think COVID, a lot of people who had to survive COVID, like me, we learned the hard way. It was huge losses.
Oh, yeah, those penalties, right?
God, it was awful. It was awful. It was like tear-inducing.
Oh, yeah, the penalties and taxes. And that's one quick thing that I can tell people that they can do tomorrow without even calling me. If you have a qualified retirement account, reach out to whoever your provider is and let them know that you want to switch it from traditional to Roth. Now, I don't necessarily, advocate for qualified retirement accounts the way they're set up today. But if you switch from traditional to Roth, that's the equivalent of paying taxes on the seeds instead of the crop. And that way, if you run into the emergency like you and your colleagues and friends ran into in COVID, at the very least, you'll have to pay a penalty. But at least you're not also taking that additional tax hit.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. And so get you back on track with that. It is liquidity. Is it safe? What's your return? And what's the tax treatment? That's
Absolutely.
the questions we need to be asking.
Yes, because when you only focus on the return, let's say that I just gave you an investment, Jennifer, to where you're making 100% a day.
Mm-hmm.
Like every time you turn around, your money, every day your money is doubling. Does it matter if you can't get to it?
No.
Liquidity, right?
Yeah.
All right. So what if you have this, you're making 100% a day and you can get to it, but does it matter that every time you go to sleep, you have no idea whether the money is going to be there or not?
Well, yeah.
That's a stressful sleep.
That's very stressful sleep.
I'm making 100% a day, but I have no idea whether it's going to be there or not. So if I have to wait
to get it, but I know that it's doubling or whatever. Yeah, then I can sleep. I'm like, I may not be able to get it today, but I know that I'll be able to get it eventually.
Eventually.
Yeah.
But what if now you can get to it? Now it's safe. Now it's getting a great rate of return. But as soon as you go to pull it out, they take 90% in taxes.
But not worth it.
So that's how we do the hierarchy. And once again, once we change the way people think, because have you ever heard of baking soda?
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course. And what creative things can you do with baking soda?
Lots of things. You can clean, you can bake, you can do lots of you can use it in your hair, you can
clean, deodorize, whiten teeth. And you actually said something that most people don't say when I ask that question. They say this whole list of things that baking soda can do, but they never remember to say what it was made for. Baking.
Oh, baking. Yeah.
Right. The same goes with life insurance. So a lot of times when you mention that life insurance, the knee-jerk reaction that people say is, oh, I don't need life insurance. Right. But if I told you that with a properly structured life insurance, it's liquid, you can get to it within 1 to 3 days. It's safe. If the market drops that year, you don't gain anything, but you don't lose nothing either. It has good predictable rates of return, on average 8 to 10% tax-free that is returning every year. If I told you that was true, but it has to be life insurance, then a lot of people would do it. For your clinic owners, let's say that they have overhead of $20,000 a year, right? And that comes up to be, $20,000 a month. And that comes up to be $240,000 a year, right? Mm-hmm. For them, that's just a normal business expense. What if you're able to put that $20,000 a year into a life policy? $20,000 a month into a life policy and then borrow it out and then pay your people. And you might say, well, why would I put money in to just borrow it out? Well, when you put the money in a life policy, it stays there. And when you borrow against it, your money is technically still there. They're using your money as leverage to loan you other people's money. So now you just paid your rent, your utilities, your staff, but that $20,000 is now going to be earning interest for the rest of your life. It's going to be
kind of like a line of credit, but different.
And it's a tax-free line of credit that you never have to pay back because it's because your money is technically still there. I like to call them twin babies. You have $20,000 digitally in your life policy, earning 8 to 10% every year. And then you have that $20,000 in your hand to pay your real life utilities and pay your employees. But now when that $240,000 that you spent that year is long gone, 10 years from now, that $240,000 that you've been putting up every year for the past year, that comes to be $2.4 million. Now imagine when you retire 10 years from now, $2.4 million of money that you had already written off, earning you 8 to 10% tax free every year. That's $240,000 a year up to $240,000 a year that you can be getting tax free in retirement just from the money that you put up from your overhead.
So it is like a line of credit, except paying anywhere from 7 to, depending on your line of credit, 19% interest.
Mm-hmm.
It's going and it's earning you.
Well, let me clarify. The reason why I want to make sure to clarify, because a lot of people have a misconception of what borrowing is, because they only think about.
I mean, you get it, but then you're putting it back. You're just using that as your main account. Everything goes in, and then you just take it out.
Yes, but once you reach the end, here's the beautiful thing: while you're working, if you're one of your clinic owners, while you're working, I recommend, whenever you borrow out, put money back in. Keep it churning. Money is called currency.
Just like you would your bank account. You know,
exactly.
So you set it up and then you're using it to pay. And then when you get your thing in, you're putting it back just like you would have to if you were using a checking account, except for this is getting you interest and building for you.
And instead of it being a typical savings account earning less than 1% per year, it's averaging 8 to 10% tax free. And then when you pull the money out in the future or in the present, it's not considered income. There's only 3 places on your tax return to put income: earned income, passive income, and portfolio income. Nowhere on there is borrowed income. So what's happening is you creating this big bank because you have to create a current. Money is called currency for a reason.
Oh,
just like a water current is meant to keep
this is
moving.
when you were talking about, I was like, what does he mean? Infinite conceptual bank.
Yes.
This is what you mean by that.
Absolutely, because it's not a federal bank, it's a conceptual bank. And what's happening is when you have a properly structured index universal life policy, those are the type of policies that I like best, because whatever they charge you in interest. Now, remember, you don't have to pay this back until after you pass away, after you're dead. The only reason that I recommend keep paying it back is while you're working. Once you stop working, you never have to pay back into these policies again. You can pull from it infinitely as long as they're structured correctly until the day you die. And then whatever is left there, Internal Revenue Code 101A, blossoms to a larger number and passes to your heirs tax-free. I know you have, I know a lot of doctors, and a lot of them are right brain, a lot of them are left brain. For the left brain people, look up Internal Revenue Code 72E, 7702, and 101A. 72E says as long as something is considered a life insurance policy, the money in it grows tax deferred. 7702 says as long as it's considered a life insurance policy and you access it correctly, the money you can access tax free and is not considered income. And then 101A says as long as it's considered a life insurance policy, whatever you have left when you die blossoms to a larger number and passes to your heirs tax free. It's really a miracle money vehicle. That's what I like to call it.
You know, what's interesting is back in my old podcast before Super Clinic Project, I had interviewed the former CFO of Coca-Cola, and he was talking to me. He was like, you know, there's just business owners just don't understand that they get upset with these, that corporations, quote unquote, don't pay taxes. He goes, they pay lots of taxes, but they also understand the laws.
Yes.
So if you don't understand the laws, and there are many laws that have been passed, to help people. And he said, you shouldn't, if you're a business owner, have to pay all the taxes. That is your fault for not understanding it and not doing, your due diligence. You're an idiot, basically. That's what he said, if you're paying a lot of taxes. And I thought about that. I was like, yeah, but it's so complex, right? I mean, you're just spitting off these codes, but how many years did you go to school and training and certification? I mean, it's your whole life to know these codes. You have to literally be a life expert to know it, but it's just fascinating that it is there for us. We just have to understand how to utilize it and not be afraid. I think that there's a lot of fear because somehow through media or our smartphones or whatever is out there in the universe, there is these hidden subliminal messages that we get from the media, from the richest people telling us, well, that's cheating. You're supposed to really pay. It's supposed to be hard. That's why they call it work. But you know what? They don't say that to each other.
They don't.
They don't say that to themselves. But yet in movies and things like that, it's made to, if you take advantage of laws that you help pass that are a benefit for you and fellow taxpayers, somehow you're bad.
Oh yeah. See,
it's crazy.
It is crazy. It's you know the difference between crazy and eccentric?
No.
Your bank account amount. So it's very eccentric how they try to change the way that we think about things. But
it is.
But it's interesting you use that word idiot, right? So I like words, right? And when you think about, when I was growing up, my granddaddy told me an idiot is someone that had the mental capacity of from 0 to 3 years old. An imbecile is somebody that had the mental capacity of 3 to 7. And a moron was somebody that had the mental capacity of 7 to 13. And he took me to an old Webster's dictionary and he showed me that. And then when you look up the definition for those words today, you know, idiot, a stupid person, imbecile, a stupid person. That's what it says. So I wanted to check out the origin of the word idiot.
Yeah, they have changed so many things with, and changing words is hard because anyway, I'll let you finish your thought, but I'm going to add on to that.
Oh, no, exactly. The words change, but they change. It makes sense, the changes that they make. If you look up the origin of the word idiot, it's the Latin idiotes, which means a private person, right? As opposed to a public citizen, somebody that was in the Senate, right? So they considered a private person to be an idiot. And then when you look up the origin of the word imbecile, it says a person without supporting staff. So yes, it's very hard to learn all of these codes. But if you're somebody that wants to try to keep everything private and do it by yourself and try to figure all this out without having supporting staff, somebody might call you an idiot. Somebody might call you an imbecile, and origin wise, they might be correct. But what were you saying? But I always think it's interesting when I think about what we think of idiot and imbecile, but really it's saying if you try to do things by yourself, you're an idiot. You need to do things with people.
Yeah, no, but also to socially how they do it. They're muddying the waters to where they're taking out this really incredible context from it. So that if we were actually taught the origins and why it changed like that, then all of a sudden we would go, you're right. People need people. We need to understand this. And by muddying it like that, that knowledge goes too.
Exactly. I like what you said.
Just to stop. I mean, I am a conspiracy theorist. Just give me my tin hat. Yeah. I'm going to stick it on. But, that's why I like podcasts, because I feel like when we're talking to one another, we're like I am going to repeat this and I'm going to talk to my partner about my husband about it. And I'll be like, hey, what I learned today? And he'll be like, you're right. Because we're both we're tin hat. But it isn't, when you think about it, language has so much context in it, and the ability to communicate these really complex sorts of things by using one word. If you know what that word means, it changes things. So there are other languages that have 8 different words for love. We use love. I love my child. I love my husband. But there are other languages. Those are 2 totally different words, because the love you have for a child and the love you would have for your spouse, your husband, or your wife are 2 totally different types of feelings.
That's interesting. Sounds like what you're saying is if you're in a culture that actually distinguishes and segregates each of these words of love, it's a better way to approach than just having an all-encompassing general definition of it.
Yeah, it's a dumbing down. It's a way to dumb it down when really, if you know what it is, it provides so much color and vibrancy to how you're speaking about something to give you more context and more and also a more focused way to think about it, where you know exactly what someone is thinking or what they're trying to paint for you, to where knowledge is more easily conveyed to the meaning that you need it to be done. So that's interesting. I mean, that's off the subject of what we're talking about, but it's just fascinating. It all
comes together.
Yeah, because this is financial literacy. So just knowing this is just incredible. Another thing you do before we go, because I know I could talk to you forever.
Let's do it.
Is franchises. We get a lot of owners that think, could I franchise? Can you just dip your toe into the water of that? If they have a clinic, it's running really good, and they're like, maybe I could have another location. And then they go, maybe I could franchise. What questions should they ask themselves before they even embark on thinking of something like that?
Are you ready to be a business coach?
If
you were to leave your business right now for a week, your current business, does it keep running seamlessly without you? That's one of the very first questions that somebody needs to ask themselves before they start franchising, because franchising is a great way to build your brand using other people's money while waiving so much liability when you do it the right way. But you have to be that person's business coach, and you have to be willing. Those first few people, of course, hopefully you set up a system to where you can handle a lot of people. But those first 1, 2, 3 franchises, those need to be your main world, because if it doesn't work out for them, then any other validation from any future franchisees, it won't go your way. So the first question is, am I ready to be someone's business coach? Now, keep in mind, you're not being a general business coach. You're being a business coach on how to operate your business. So it's not like you're switching careers completely. Now, you're somebody's business coach on how to operate your business specifically. And if you weren't running your company, if you weren't in the day-to-day of your current business, does it keep going? Because that's essentially what happens. Once you decide that you want to franchise, that's what happens. Now, here's the benefits of it. The benefits are you are essentially having people. So what happens is they come in and then they tell their bank, hey, bank, I'm going to do exactly what this person did. And that person that would have never got any financing at all just got approved for $500, $750 grand, $1 million, right? To do what you're doing, because they're doing what you're doing. And then now you're able to take that money, build it up. Now that franchisee, they get insurance, but guess what? Even though you're waiving liability as the franchisor, you don't necessarily want something happening over there to affect you over here. What you do is you list yourself as an additional insured on their insurance policies. So now your brand just got an extra 750 to $1 million. I don't know what your business model is, but let's say your brand just got an extra 750 to $1 million to expand. And that money that you got was used to buy insurance to not only cover your franchisee, but cover you as well. So it's an amazing thing. And a lot of people don't understand how long the terms are. Typically franchise agreements are 10 years. So as a franchisor, you need to look at it as an annuity. For every person that you sign up as a franchisee, this is a 10-year annuity. And if they're giving me, let's say, 7% of their gross revenue, and I get them up to be a $1 million gross revenue company, that's $70,000 a year for me. And then over the next 10 years, that's $700,000. All right, what would I pay for $700,000? And then that, once you figure out what would you pay, if you were to say, all right, if I gave Jennifer $70,000, I got back $700,000. Would that be fair for me? All right, if that's fair, you need to be willing to pay up to whatever you consider is fair to find a new franchisee. So, are you ready to be a coach? Can your business run without you? Do you understand that this is a 10-year agreement on average? And usually people charge, either a flat rate or a percentage of gross revenue. And I know I said a lot in a short time. It
that
goes
is
deeper.
So much, but that's okay. We will get this all done out, because anybody can talk to you and fully. In fact, can you give everybody your website and how they can reach you?
Absolutely. You can go to shieldwolfstrong.com. That's SHIELDWOLFSTRONG.com. You can also text Super Clinic 25. If you text Super Clinic 25 to +1 904 822 4262, I'll go ahead and send you out a free link to get a no cost, no obligation, a free business evaluation, and estate plan. Because that is another one of the things that you want to know as a potential franchisor is how much is your current company worth? How much is it worth? And then go from there. So I do free business evaluations and unofficial estate plans for people if they want it.
Oh, wow. Okay, guys. Okay, my Super Clinic owners, you just got
Super Clinic 25.
Honey of a deal here to be able to talk to Randolph Love and to get everything squared away so that you can be smart, you can have the liquidity, you can be safe, you can get a return, and your tax is not going to kill you in the end. Plus, if you want to go franchising, you'll know exactly where you need to be to do that and how to get there. Well, yes, Randolph, this has been a really great episode, and I can't wait.
The time flew by. Flew by.
I know. We got to have you. Yeah, we need to have you back. Maybe to talk about exit plans next time.
Let's do it. The best time to start is before you start, but after you start, let me tell you what the best time is.
Okay.
That's the teaser. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I love talking to you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Super Clinic Project podcast. If you like what you hear, subscribe and stay tuned for further episodes of the Super Clinic Project podcast.